Email to you.
Keep me on track too.
Okay, you got it. You're ready to go anyway.
Let me know when you're ready. Okay. Call the meeting to order. First item on our agenda is addition and deletions to the agenda. Councillor Sobel, do you have anything? Councillor Bookman?
Your Worship, I have one addition, if I may.
Yes.
I just found out about it this afternoon, actually, 8.8 maybe, regarding the Peace Tower flag.
8.8, Peace Tower flag.
I didn't vote.
Peace Tower.
I'm sorry, I missed what was it called?
Peace Tower
Peace
flag.
Tower flag. Deputy Mayor Walls?
Your Worship, I have 4 questions to ask during council, questions between councillors and or to administration.
Okay, thank you. Deputy
Thank
Mayor
you, Your
Walls.
Worship.
Councillor Graychuk?
Nothing, Your Worship.
Okay. Councillor Fuel?
Nothing, Your Worship.
And Councillor Peterson?
Just one, Your Worship, a request for policy direction.
Okay, where would you like to place that?
At your pleasure, Your Worship.
11.1.
11.1. Okay. 11.1.
Your Worship, if there's nothing further, I'd move.
No,
Oh, sorry.
not yet. And I'm going to have one thank you that I want to make note of, and just a quick question, if I could also, under questions to councillors and administration. And does administration have anything need to add?
No, Your Worship.
Now, Your Worship, I'd move to adopt the agenda as amended.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? And carried. Adoption of our February 4th regular council meeting minutes.
That's what move, Your Worship.
We have a motion on the floor to adopt the minutes. Is there any?
Your Worship, just a point of clarification. I'm just wondering why sometimes I'm referred to as councillor and sometimes referred to as deputy. Is there a difference? Okay, good. Just checking. Thank you.
Nothing further? Okay, all in favor? And carried. First item on our agenda is a citizen recognition. And if we could have Nancy Stairs, please come forward and have a chair. We would appreciate it.
Have a chair?
Have a chair.
Okay.
It's called the hot seat. And it's there so we can recognize you, Nancy. Nancy Stair is being recognized this evening because of the volunteer work she does in our community. Nancy makes life better for others. This past December, Deputy Mayor Brad Walls brought to Council's attention her efforts to make Christmas better for those in need. Nancy is a longtime resident of Strathmore and has been a realtor for almost 30 years. During this time, Nancy has become a very valuable sponsor for many organizations. Without her support, many initiatives, like being an integral part of the Easter egg hunt put on by Remax Realty Horizon team in Kinsman Park, this would not be possible without her help. We know a lot of groups value the support she continues to give their organizations. You can pick Nancy out of any crowd. Just listen for her laugh and take a look and watch her smile. And oh, by the way, she'll likely be putting her hand up and bidding on something at some function. Nancy has always been a doer. She doesn't need the recognition. She just likes to get things done and is always there to help anyone in need. Nancy, on behalf of Council and the citizens of Strathmore, thank you for all you do on behalf of our community. Councilor, Deputy Mayor Walls, if you'd assist me in presenting a citizenship award, Strathmore Citizenship Award to Nancy Stairs.
Should we stand?
Here. Yeah.
Ask Steve.
You're going to get it together.
Okay.
Thank you. Each to their strengths. The next item on our agenda is okay. Councilman Peterson.
Your Worship, I just want to say that nearly 35 years ago when I moved to this community, it was also Nancy Stairs who was involved with Citizens on Patrol and parent activity programs and Neighborhood Watch. So, you know, we're really thankful to all the people in Strathmore who volunteer on a one-time or a 10-time basis, but when you volunteer for 35 years, that speaks highly. So thank you.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the Western Irrigation District would like to give us a brief presentation in regards to zebra mussels that may impact us because of our irrigation system and because of the water, the Kinsman Lake and the water that we have in our town. So, Mr. Dan Shute, if you'd like to come forward and if you have a few moments and let us hear in regards to the dangers of zebra mussels.
Do I get the hot seat as well?
Please.
Doesn't feel too warm yet. Good evening, greetings. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Dan Shute. I am board chair of the Western Irrigation District. I bring greetings to council staff and to all on behalf of board and management at the WID. I travel light. As you can see, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation or notes, but I was asked to give really just a brief talk and overview of, I'm going to call it the larger subject of aquatic invasive species as opposed to zebra or quagga mussel specifically. Let me start by saying certainly irrigation as an industry in Alberta has been quite involved in, I'm going to call it a threat, an imminent and very real threat to waterways and water systems in the province of Alberta. So far, as you probably know, we are zebra and quagga mussel free, to the best of our knowledge. Closest at hand in Canada, zebra mussels were discovered in Lake Winnipeg in the fall of 2013 for the first time. Lake Winnipeg being the 10th largest freshwater lake in the world. They made some attempts through the course of 2014 at eradication. Early initial signs of success led to disappointment. That was potash was the treatment that they chose to use there in selected areas where they knew there were some concentrations. It works. It works in the sense that it killed the zebra mussels in specific areas. But it wasn't very long before, through additional testing, they realized they had a much bigger problem. So it's almost a challenge to hear a presentation from some of the folks from the province of Manitoba, because they do feel defeated. So they have moved from really prevention to one of control. And when you hear presentations from those folks who have been through that in Manitoba, the encouragement they give is anything you can do now around prevention, even if it means that you are simply pushing that further down the road, and even if you buy into the fact that ultimately we may get some sort of infestation in this province, they will tell you, in their humble opinion, is it worth every ounce of effort. I'm gonna throw it out as a question to council and others in the room. Do you want me to give you some more background on sort of the risk and the subject of mussels generally? Zebra and quagga mussels are basically they are an invasive species. They are a freshwater mussel from Asia. They've been in the Great Lakes, don't quote me on this, I'm going to say since the late 80s. You can find all sorts of information on the internet. Just Google it and you'll get lots of lovely, nasty YouTube videos on the subject. They have made their way into somewhere between 20 and 30 states now south of the border. But we are sitting in a mussel-free zone, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC, and 5 states just to the south of us. I probably won't get them all right, Montana, Idaho, Washington. There'll be a couple of others in there. They are a threat to our waterways and our water systems for a bunch of very real reasons. They change ecosystems, they clog pumping systems, they stick to everything. And they are very prolific in terms of their breeding, and they can get out of control in a big, big hurry. The Alberta government has done an economic study with some forecasts that if we get an infestation in this province, it will be probably conservative estimate somewhere in the neighborhood of $75 million annually, just in control measures. So you can imagine water bodies, obviously from an irrigation perspective, and close at hand. You've got certain water bodies right here in town, Chestermere Lake. Imagine an infestation of zebra and quagga mussels in Glenmore Reservoir, some of TransAlta's reservoirs up west of the city. I probably don't need to tell you if it gets into irrigation systems, we'll probably all have them and have them very quickly. So it's incumbent upon us, I think, to make some further efforts around education and potential control measures. The government, if you allow me to refer to my lovely notepad for 1 second. The government's basically 5-prong approach relative to this subject. The 5 headings would be monitoring, rapid response planning, education and outreach, watercraft inspections, and policy and legislation. I'll comment for you quickly on policy and legislation. The government of Alberta hosted what they called an Aquatic Invasive Species Summit in Calgary mid-January. I was in attendance for a day and a half. It was an invitation. I'm going to say in that conference approximately 125 folks. The Minister of Environment, Minister Kyle Fawcett, spoke to that conference on the second day in the morning. I don't want to speak for Minister Fawcett, but his comment to us around legislation is it is actively being worked on, and the intent was to bring legislative amendments into the House in the spring sitting. Now, this is my own comment, and this is not coming from government or the minister. The caveat on that is where that would sit relative to the potential of an early election call. So they are working on it. They recognize the importance of the issue, but certainly anything that all of us can do to keep, shall we say, the pressure on for. So when I say legislation, one of the things out of legislation, the province of Alberta does not currently have legislation that requires mandatory boat inspections. So if you are entering the province of Alberta, and I'm not talking about the federal border because I can comment on that in a second, but if you're entering the province, there is nothing in law that requires you, if you're towing a boat, to stop and subject yourself to an inspection. That is strictly voluntary, and there was relatively well done voluntary program that the province was doing last summer, and that has ramped up, I think, quite nicely in terms of what they're planning for this season as well. But it's voluntary. Most people, I think, driving by a station like that would pull over, but again, there's nothing in law. So that's part of what would be coming in terms of legislation, and we're talking somewhat on the specific subject of quagga and zebra mussels, but I mentioned that I would comment to you really on the larger topic of aquatic invasive species, because it goes beyond just those. We have carp issues. We already have invasive carp in this province. Plants, to give you an example, probably the town of Strathmore has an invasive plant list. Most municipalities do. I'll highlight one for you because we do have the infestation. There's something called flowering rush, which is now officially in Chestermere Lake. It's an invasive plant. It's very prolific. I've seen video on the computer, and it literally can blanket a water body. It chokes out natural habitat, other native plants. Obviously, from an irrigation perspective, if we get it in their canals, it's choking off our ability to flow water efficiently. So I mentioned that as an example of the larger topic of aquatic invasive species. They're all important. Flowering rush poses a challenge because there's not really any effective control measures. Not very, in fact, I'm not sure. There might be one or two effective sprays for it, but very challenging when you think of a body of water like Chestermere. It's obviously connected to irrigation water. Irrigation water is in turn flowing to farmers' fields. So you got challenges around that. Am I seeing a question?
Oh, just when you're finished.
Yep. Sorry, I'm on a roll, as it were. But flowering rush, as an example, even if you hired a small army to literally hand pick it, still doesn't solve the problem. That plant will reproduce not just from a small piece of root, it will reproduce from a piece of stalk, literally. So if you break something off, if you leave something behind, it's an amazing plant. One of the frustrating things that I heard for the first time at the summit in mid-January in Calgary, we've got a lot of gaps and there's a lot of frustrating things going on out there. You can go online, I'm told, and from somewhere, a garden supply place online, you can order flowering rush and have it shipped to your home in Alberta. Now explain to me the disconnect when we have something that is that much of a challenge for water bodies, but there is nothing in law that, so you can see some of the challenges in front of us. I think what else I'm gonna kind of stop there for a second. I can chat some more, but at this point, any immediate questions that come to mind?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Shute, you're just a ray of sunshine. Brought us everything except Ebola. But, so in your considered opinion, do you think legislation is imminent in the province?
Yeah, I'm going to take Minister Fawcett's comments, Councillor Peterson, in January at face value, and certainly the staff. Kate Wilson as a name for you that's aquatic invasive species specialist and a very, very dedicated and hardworking member of the Alberta government. I'm confident that we were getting quote unquote the straight goods, that it has been, a motion was on the floor that was debated around this subject last fall. So it's already been, it's in the Hansard, it's been on the floor, and certainly are reaching to MLAs beyond just the minister and the premier. We've tried to reach as far as we can. Minister of Agriculture is well versed on this subject, the chair of the Calgary caucus, just to use some examples. So I think it is a high priority for them. Can I guarantee that they're going to follow through with legislative amendments in the spring session? Obviously not, but that's what we were told.
Mr. Shute, you're speaking to politicians here, and I guess I'm considering the wisdom of this group. working with our fellow municipal councillors in the province to bring forward resolutions to AUMA, and in addition to, in support of government, I guess.
My understanding is some of those resolutions at
Are on
both
the-
levels are
in the way?
are in place.
Thank you. I really appreciate your information.
Deputy Mayor Walz?
Your worship, I just want to thank Mr. Shute very much for coming out, and thank you for the education I got at Costco that day. It was great, and it saved me shopping. So can you just elaborate on the size of these things? Could I be transporting my boat down the road and not even know that these zebra mussels are
Very easily. They're about the size of your fingernail. So they're pretty small. And that's part of the challenge, Councillor Walz. As much as we would like to put that onus on the boat owner, they could do what they think is a very thorough inspection of their boat. And that's part of the gap as well. And I heard recently that we've got fiscal challenges at the province. They were to send a contingent down south of the border, I think, probably to Lake Mead for some training. So part of that training would be inspection training. Some of the newer boats are very, very sophisticated, and there are so many places. And it doesn't take a full-grown zebra quagga mussel, that the shelled creature that latches onto hard surfaces, and that's how they transport. They can live out of water, we're told, for up to 30 days. They can go a long way. And clearly, with the Lake Winnipeg example, they clearly can survive our cold winters. They're bottom dwellers, is what I understand. So, but the microscopic larvae called a veliger. So you can be transporting it if you've got some standing water on your boat and probably not realize it. Which brings me to a small point in terms of irrigation industry efforts on this subject. We have tried to step up in more ways than just our educational efforts and our lobbying efforts. Through 2014 and so far already in 2015, financially we have stepped up in a fairly significant way in concert with the provincial government on programs, largely this winter on an extension of what they call their sniffer dog program. So it started last year as a pilot program and really gained a lot of attention. So they are able to train sniffer dogs to do the boat inspections quite successfully. And so we have provided some support to expand, instead of a couple of dogs, which I think they were working with last year. Don't quote me on the number. There'll be a handful of them out there working this year. So we're hopeful. Part of the presentations, there were some folks from south of the border that were making presentations at the summit, one of which was the fellow in charge of that program in the state of Idaho. Idaho has an amazingly successful program. They have mandatory legislation. It is really difficult to get yourself through the state of Idaho towing a boat and not be stopped.
Councillor Peel?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much for your presentation. I think it's really important, especially with the waterways that we have going through the town with the WID. I'm amazed that the minister's name is Fawcett too. I think that's awesome. But I'm wondering if you feel there's a need for us as a municipality to send a letter to the minister and his staff concerning this and outlining our concerns, maybe calling for more stringent or more regular checks at the border.
If you're asking for my personal opinion, I don't think it could hurt anything. I would encourage anyone that I would talk to. I would have a visit with my neighbor, literally, and if they were willing to write a letter, I'd tell them to write a letter. I would encourage you to not stop at our provincial elected officials, and I can certainly provide through His Worship or Mr. Stanford. I took it upon myself a little over a year ago. Mayor Al was at a workshop that I helped put together in Chestermere just about a year ago on this particular subject, and I had written a letter to the federal fisheries minister and got a reply from them. So federally, they are also working on legislation. We're not there yet. So again, same thing applies. You can bring a boat across the border through our border system. Now, I understand there's all sorts of exceptions to this. If Border Services has reason to reasonably view a watercraft as high risk for something that they may notice, they have the right to detain you. But as a matter of course, unless they witness something that they would deem at high risk, you are not forced to subject yourself to a watercraft inspection because that legislation does not exist, is my understanding.
Councilor Craig?
Thank you. Great presentation. I'm just wondering if WDI is making presentations to farmers and anybody that, a boating club or something like that. Are you people making a step up on it?
The WID specifically, or irrigation in terms of presentations, where we have been doing more of that. Councillor Graychuk, yes. I referred to a seminar and a workshop that we organized a year ago. I can tell you this evening, a communications staff member at the Eastern Irrigation District is doing a presentation in the city of Brooks this evening on this very subject. So we're doing more of it. I would like to see more cooperative efforts in terms of the education, the outreach, the general communication, in terms of supporting the government's efforts so that it's centrally coordinated. And I mean, there are television commercials, there's YouTube videos, there are materials out there, and you can also reach out to the government, and there's certain materials that they can provide to you. So there is a lot of stuff happening. Clearly, there could be a whole bunch more. And I'm sitting here this evening as I'm hoping that everyone that's sitting here this evening in turn goes and talks to 10 more people, because that's really what this is about. And the longer, particularly on the zebra and quagga mussels, the longer we can keep ourselves mussel free. I've chatted through some of my work contacts, a young fellow that has moved here for work, and he's originally from Ontario. I am myself many years ago. And I mentioned the word zebra and quagga mussels to him, and right away he says, "Oh yeah, do whatever you can. You don't want those things." You cannot go for a swim in a body of water that is infected with zebra and quagga mussels in your bare feet. You got to be basically wearing shoes, because those shells will literally cut your feet into Swiss cheese. They're sharp, all sorts of nasty things like washing up, and eventually they do die. So you have odor issues as they're dying and rotting on the shores of really any body of water. So there's I'm sorry to bring a negative story, but there really is not a positive spin. I've had the question many times: was there a harvesting opportunity? And not anything to consume.
I have a question. Any place that's been infested with this mussel, have they ever been eradicated?
Not to my knowledge.
And so the mussel comes in, and what's it do to the piping?
Well, one of the biggest things is so they attach themselves. Again, we could do a quick search. Alberta Agriculture is one example, and Environment has them as well. They have these lovely displays that they carry around with them, and it's literally a pipe or a picture of a pipe, and it's coated on the inside, literally, that it's taking a pipe this size, and the amount of water that might flow through it is down to about that, because it's just the inside of that pipe is just coated, and they latch themselves to really any hard surface. That's why the biggest method of transport is watercraft, is because they will attach themselves to that, and they get transported. To the point where I'm also under the understanding that in places where it's a closed pipe, where you could send a chemical treatment in a closed environment down that pipe to kill them. So you've now killed them. But apparently they largely do not drop off and float away once they're dead. So now you've killed them, but you now probably have the extra expense of some sort of manual scouring of that pipe to literally get rid of the actual shells and what remains.
And what can we do to protect ourselves here in this town?
Boy, isn't that a loaded question? I wish I had a 30-second answer, Your Worship, to that. It starts, I think, with some efforts around all of the things and hitting some of the buttons on those 5 programs that I just talked about. So in the immediate term, I would explore things like what materials can you get from the province, contacting the province, writing those letters that you talked about from the legislative component, both provincially and federally. There is signage out there. If you don't have anything that you can steal from a budget to put, at the main entry points to the town, or in Kinsman Park, where you've got water bodies, the mantra that's being used is clean, drain, and dry. If you want to really start looking at things, the province currently has 2 mobile hot water wash stations. I call it a station. It's a unit for decontaminating watercraft. There's probably a need because the province did, through the voluntary program, intercept a handful of boats that were infested. So that's how imminent that threat is. One of those units is worth, I'm told, about $25,000. There may be an opportunity, I emphasize may, I would have to talk to some of my irrigation compatriots, but there may be an opportunity to partner if you had a handful of municipalities together. Chestermere possibly would be a candidate. Maybe 4 or 5 parties can partner up and purchase an additional hot water wash unit for 25 grand. So there's many things. I'm trying to answer your question around that prevention that you talked about. So certainly you could do monitoring. We're doing monitoring. So we basically, for the past number of years, have been dropping every summer a small section of pipe on a rope in various places in Chestermere Lake, as an example, where and those we have summer students are checking those to make sure that we have no nasty creatures attached to that. So any place where there's a body of water, you potentially could drop in a monitoring device, which is quite simple to do. That's an inexpensive. Certainly I can put you in contact with either Kate Wilson at Environment or even Nicole Seitz, who is her compatriot on the agricultural side, through the basics of doing something like that. There's a school of thought out there, wouldn't it be lovely if instead of all of the efforts at every single individual municipality and organization like irrigation is trying to do on a very small level. I mentioned the 5 states south of the border. So we've got a mussel-free zone. Wouldn't it be a lovely thought if we could all get together and pool all of our resources instead of doing it on a local level? Let's try and keep them out of the larger area. That may be wishful thinking. There's an organization called PENWR. If I say PENWR, does anybody know what I'm talking about? Pacific Northwest Economic Region, I think generally is what that stands for. This happens to be a hot button issue because generally that region itself is mussel-free. So this is a very important issue to an organization called PENWR. PENWR sent a contingent to Ottawa last June. They lobby for certain things and have certain things on their agenda. I know this was one of the items that was discussed with certain federal ministers on that trip. So, you could reach out to a group like PENWR and ask for. You could reach out to. I can provide you contacts from the folks down in Idaho to get a sense of some of the things that they're doing. Educational materials, you really can't, you almost can't do enough. You could sponsor a little YouTube video. You could add, by all means, contact me. There's all sorts of links that you could add right to the Town of Strathmore's website. You could consider inserts to your utility bills, ads in the newspaper. There's a multitude of things. So, have I said enough?
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for having me, and again, greetings from the district. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Enjoy your meeting.
Thank you.
Take care, folks.
Next item on our agenda is the
Your Worship,
Sorry, I'm
perhaps
sorry.
I could make a motion on this, that
Yes, please.
we have administration forward a letter, or letters to both our environmental minister and federal minister, and as well any additional suggestions that Dan may be able to make. I think this is something that we should get our voice out there, and this obviously is a huge concern.
There's a motion on the floor to send letters to the provincial and the federal minister, and to keep in contact with Dan to get further information. Is there any questions, discussion? All in favor? And carried. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the Recreation Committee, and Ms. Tristan Perriard, would you like to come forward, please?
So thank you for having me, excuse me, tonight. So I had sent you all a couple of documents. The first was a letter of request requesting Steve sit on our board formally. I know that this was brought to you guys. Can you guys hear me okay? It was okay. In October. And Pat was sitting on our board beforehand. So as things have kind of got passed on, I just wanted to make sure that there was a formal request that Steve would be sitting on there, that we would have somebody from the town of Strathmore at our meetings. And if somebody wasn't able to come, or if Steve wasn't able to come, that we were going to be having an alternate come, because we feel it's very important to move forward with a voice from the town at this point. So the other the other document that I sent was the work agreement contract. This was put together after we had come in October and presented to the town to work with the County of Wheatland, and as well as the recreational board, which has now actually been we've confirmed a name, we have it registered, and which is the Regional Recreation Enhancement Committee. Just to clarify that. So we usually RREC is what we use as our acronym. This was drafted. However, we've not sent it out because through some of the meetings and discussions that we've had, the grant that we were going to apply in order for the councils to work together had kind of passed. And so we weren't going to be able to apply for that grant. And so we were kind of looking at other options and seeing what other grants possibly we could look into to work together, or if we were going to have to put up the funding ourselves in some way or another. So I wanted to kind of give you guys a brief update on what's happening with our committee and what we're doing now and what we're looking forward to in the future. So I'm going to say there hasn't been a lot of movement. It's been very slow moving because, as you probably know, becoming a society takes time. And we're applying for society status. We're working on bylaws right now. So we've actually created a subcommittee to create these bylaws. So we're doing revision, and kind of fine tuning all of that. And then we'll be sending our final documents in to hopefully be approved, and then move forward with that. But of course, like I say, that takes time. And so that's right now one of the biggest processes is getting that finalized so that we can move forward as a society. Some of the things that we've kind of discussed in the last few meetings, and I think that's very important. We've had some main key players. So of course, the town of Strathmore, the County of Wheatland's been sitting on our board. We've also been working with the school board. They've been sitting on the committee as well. The Strathmore Ag Society, and then myself and a few other residents, both county and residents. So in saying that, this is something I'm very passionate about. I feel like I want to make sure that this is done right the first time. So I really want to make sure that we have a strong foundation, and why I'm starting with the society, and we're starting that way so that we know that when people start donating and they're going to ask questions and what are you guys going to have, we know what we're going to bring to the table. We know that we can get funding, things like that. So we really believe that people, the residents here, deserve a facility in this town. All the towns around us have facilities already, from Heller, Brooks, Hanna. These facilities are Airdrie, Cochrane, Okotoks, and we, I feel, are lagging behind in that area. So at this point, we have already secured funds from the County of Wheatland. They've already put up $40,000 for a needs assessment for a grant. So, sorry, without the grant. So with the needs assessment, they want something done because they want to know what the needs are. And I actually had a conversation with Mary Ellen. I think, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I think you agreed with me in saying we need to know what our needs are. We don't even know what they are necessarily. We've had a needs assessment done in 2010, but I'm sure you could all agree with me when the town has grown a lot in 4 years. It's changed a lot. I feel like the mentality of the town has changed a lot. I think there's a lot of forward thinkers out there now and people wanting something more for this town. So in saying that, I think a needs assessment is the starting point to this project. So without that being done, I really think that we can't tell you what we need or what's going to be in the building or what it's going to look like. People have all these kind of questions, but I say it's one step at a time. And like I say, that foundation is essential. You know what? We can have a big picture in our head and have ideas, but we have to lay the foundation before we take the next step and the next step. So in saying that, I think that the needs assessment is an amenity that we need to have done. We have started a contract with RC Strategies, which I had mentioned in October, and they had done your past needs assessment in 2010. And so really for the town, it would be more of an update than anything. So a couple things that a lot of people have been asking me around town and saying, well, you know, with this, I don't like, they're kind of coming to me and saying, well, what are you guys doing? Like, what's going on? You guys have already started a rec facility for $5 million. And I'm like, well, not really. And so kind of the same way they found out through the papers and word of mouth and things like that. I've been working with the school board, and I know that they've been coming and having presentations and things like that, asking for some support for a rec facility that will coincide with the new school that they are that they're potentially going to have. So I'm going to say that I think that that's an excellent idea, an excellent way to go. We've been paralleling with them, and I think that there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I still feel like if it's not something that is going to be that's going to meet the needs of the town, if it's not going to provide the town to grow with it and give all the amenities that the town people and the residents in the area need, then I think that we're going about it the wrong way. So my questions to those is, you know, what are the plans for that? You know, what are the needs of the town? What is the preparation that's taking in order for this rec facility and the foundation that we're making for this $5 million decision? What will the residents get? Is it sustainable? Will it accommodate the needs of our residents? And something that a lot of, I think, people are asking about, well, how sustainable and maintainable is it? And I think that that's where we need to discuss a multi-use facility where we have multiple amenities in the town that we can bring together where it becomes more sustainable. If you have one-off buildings here and there being built by organizations, that's when it's hard to maintain. That's when it's hard to sustain. And I feel like that's when when it's hard to get a sense of community as well, because people go to these recreational centers and it is a community. It brings a sense of community, brings a sense of pride to a town. People want to move here because there's something here for them, for their kids, for their parents if they're older. You know, they can go to a walking track, whatever. There's different amenities for all different ages. So in saying that, I think we need a multi-use facility that brings people to Strathmore. It'll help build our town. It'll be easy to maintain and sustain. It's a long-term building that we're not going to have to look at this again in 5 or 10 years and say, well, we have to do this all over again now. You know, this should be a building that's going to last 50, 100 years, that we're not going to have to continue to rebuild and rebuild and rebuild all these one-offs. So I feel like, how is the town going to ensure residents get what they deserve? Can the town commit to a needs assessment, and what is the next step that we're going to take? And I don't know if you have the money to set aside for a needs assessment, but I think it's something that we need to consider at this point.
Councillor Graychuk?
Yeah, thank you very much. I love your enthusiasm, by the way. It shows, and I appreciate it. I was a long time ago in year 2000 that when I was in the Ag Board, I was a big proponent of trying to get a recreational facility going, and it's been selling. But it seems to me that we had a needs assessment done then, and it was always the arena, and it goes on and on. And so 3 major ones: arena, the soccer pitch, and then a track. Having said that, we know we need one. There is no question. Whatever it may turn out to be, there is no question. End of the day, we all, and you brought it up, it's money, and where does it come from, and how do we maintain it? It's costing us right now 2.2 million, and it don't sound like I'm talking negative, but I'm sure you're aware of this, but just to bring it up publicly, $2.2 million to run the swimming pool in the arena right now. And that to us is a very scary thought. We don't, and it's tough economic times, we don't have the money, you know, but that doesn't say stop the program that you're into. I think you're going about it the right way. I appreciate it. And I do want to be on the board. And I do have a letter here stating that I'm on the board with you. But I was recently informed that, correct me if I'm wrong, that the needs assessment now is down to 48,000. Is that, where am I getting that figure?
Yeah, so that figure is actually just for the county of Wheatland now, because after we had a discussion about it, they had gone to RC Strategies and just said, well, what if we just do the county of Wheatland? If we're just going to do the county of Wheatland, what will that cost? And they said 48,000. So that doesn't include the town of Strathmore. If they included the town, it would probably be about another 20,000 to include the town as an update. So it would be in the, I'm going to say the 60 to 75 range.
So if we got together and combined all this, and I believe that, I know the Ag Society does have one from the year 2000. If we combined all 3 needs assessment reports that we got, would that not satisfy you? That one, the existing ones?
I think that the existing ones that we have are out of date. That's why, from my standpoint, I guess if you guys are happy with the ones that you have from 2010, then we could use them. And I think that's kind of what we had discussed at our last meeting was, you know what, if that's okay with the town, that they're okay with their needs being met from this needs assessment, then we can go forward with it. But the county at this point, they've never had a needs assessment done. They feel that in order to move forward at any point, they need this needs assessment done. And I think that they're showing that they're very involved by putting up that $40,000 to do it on their own. So that's where they're going forward with it. I think the additional amount was with a blueprint as well. And so we discussed on how we could possibly raise some money, or they could come up with a little bit more for the blueprints on top of a needs assessment.
Well, I'm saying that keep up the good work, and you're doing a tremendous job. I look forward to sitting on the board with you. And I'm not committing, and I say this publicly, without council's approval, we can't commit to any money without their say.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. So yeah, no, thank you for.
Thank you.
Councillor Field?
Thank you. Thanks for making your presentation, Tristan. I think part of it was you wanting some clarification on where we came from as far as the support for the school division's idea. And part of that was to show a commitment to the school division, because they're trying to make sure that the K-9 school has the best chance of being approved and funded and done by the province. So anything they can do to make themselves look more attractive as a potential school site gets them a better chance to be approved finally. And so they came forward with the idea of a potential dome for one of the needs that was very high on the needs assessment was an indoor facility for walking, for soccer, for lacrosse. So that's one of the reasons that we decided to show some commitment to that. It was basically to improve the chances for the school's approval and funding by the provincial government. And it was a way we thought that would get the most bang for our buck financially in addressing one of the main needs that was shown in the recent needs assessment survey. So that I wanted to clear that up for you. I'm also very impressed with your commitment and your enthusiasm. And I think we see and we know that an arena is definitely something that's important as far as a lot of the people in town. But I did want to just explain why the school idea was one that we decided to show some support for, because it would meet one of the major needs that was showing up on the needs assessment that was done recently. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Peterson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Tristan. I have a question for administration to our CAO or maybe to Director Simpson. There was a time recently where the United Way had money that they had set aside for needs assessment. Am I correct in that?
Your Worship, the United Way funds that are set aside for needs assessment are more to do with the social needs of the community.
So they're not recreationally based?
Not recreational.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sobel?
Although I would suggest, correct me if I'm wrong, that the 2012 United Way assessment did deal with recreation to a point.
Yes, a small portion of that needs assessment was in regard to recreation.
And that's one of the things as well, Tristan. I think that there are lots of worthwhile pieces of information. As Ms. Swatsky pointed out, they're limited, but I think there are some very good pieces of information in that particular document that might help make a case in the 2012 assessment. Mr. Councillor Sobel's more familiar with it than I am, possibly.
Well, from what I can recall, it was, basically it followed very closely the 2010 in regards to recreation, to the same areas of need and concern.
And I just had one subsequent question, Your Worship. Tristan, in your WCA, in the work plan agreement, in the paragraph under project agreement, I just had a question for clarification. You said in there the WREC will be a neutral party in the project. What did you mean by that?
Basically, from my standpoint of where the Recreational Enhancement Committee comes from is that we were kind of taking a stand that with the county and the town of Strathmore not necessarily working together on a lot of projects in the past for these type of things, we really want to make sure that we're the neutral entity saying, you know what, we're not going to take a side from the town of Strathmore, and we're not going to take a side from the county of Wheatland. We really want to make sure that we are kind of a sounding board, that when everyone comes to this committee, that we all have a fair share of getting our voice heard, and that we make the best decision based on what we hear from each of those different councils and members of the committee as well. So
thank you. I really appreciate that. It clears up a lot of things, because so you're Switzerland, you're not saying you're not going to raise money. Thank you.
Councillor Buckland.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, Tristan, I don't mean to sound like a downer here. You're doing an excellent job, and I hope you continue. I'm sure these things are going to take some time before anything even starts showing up. You did answer, I had a couple of things here. You did answer one for me, the County of Wheatland with their donation for a needs assessment. We were actually at a Wheatland County partnership meeting back in late November, early December, where that was actually brought up. And the way I understood it, it was for their own needs out in the county. I'm not sure if some of this will spill over into what you're looking for into the town.
Sorry, the needs of the county spill over.
That, when they said they were going ahead with this needs assessment,
Yeah.
it's because they wanted to know what their own needs were.
Yeah.
Out in the county. So I don't know if any of that'll spill over into the town on what you're working on. I'm not sure.
Well, really, the essential idea of what this is that we want to make sure that even though I'm going to say I'm working from a resident of the town of Strathmore, this is really about the patrons of the town. It's not just who lives in Strathmore. It's not a boundary of Strathmore saying, well, these are our residents. This is our town. This is where we live, and we're going to build a recreational facility in Strathmore. We've pulled from a huge area of people that come here and have built this town in the county of Wheatland as well. So I believe that I grew up outside of Strathmore. I call myself a resident of Strathmore. I believe that this is my town. Whether I grew up in this town, directly in this town or not, I am from Strathmore and this is my town. And so from that standpoint, having a needs assessment based on the people outside of the boundaries of this town is very important, because those people come to this town and do the exact same thing as the people that live inside the town. So
Yeah, no, that's good. I can
Yeah.
understand that. The other thing I wanted to touch on, two more things actually, furthering Councillor Fuel's remarks on the $5 million that council in principle agreed with Golden Hill School Division. That doesn't mean that check is signed and sealed and delivered to them. There's a lot of ducks that got to be lined up in a row, and I'm sure one or two of them are not quite lined up yet. So that may or may not happen either. My biggest concern as a counselor and as being in private business also, we're in for one tough year here, and I realize this thing isn't going to get up and running and built in 2015, but I think we got to really watch where we're going here in the near future. I'm not trying to be negative on this whole thing, but operational costs on this thing alone are something that bothers me a lot.
So I think those are all valid points, and
Yeah,
something that I think a lot of you have probably some questions about too. And I know that some of the discussion that we've had on the board was some ways that we could subsidize. How do we make this, a project that can maintain itself with having to flood funds into it? So a couple things are having private business in there, renting space. What about a hotel in the area or attached to it? Things that are actually going to be providing some sort of income to it, so that we're not going to be, we're really trying to think out of the box with this, and not just saying, well, this is just a rec center, and if people are coming here for tournaments, they need to stay somewhere, so why not stay where they're going to be?
I'm sure
spending money?
you've seen the Lloydminster model set up there,
Yeah.
or you've inquired about it, where they put the hotel right beside it.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that there's some ways to work around that and work within it. And I think that that's why I continue to say that this is something that we really need to have a strong foundation, and we don't start building one-offs, because that's when it does become unsustainable. We can't sustain things like that, whereas if it is all in one building, it's easier to employ people, have one janitor for the whole entire building instead of 5 different ones, or whatever the case is for that. One other thing about, I understand that, the oil industry is going down, and we can already see a little bit of havoc that's being created from it. In saying that, like everything, it never lasts forever. And yeah, this isn't going to happen overnight. So I think, as we move forward, we just need to continue doing what we're doing. And I can't kind of say, what, if it happens in a year, or if it happens in 5 years, for us to raise the funds that we need to make the place the best place we can be, then that's what we're going to do. I think sometimes slow and steady wins the race. We don't need, everyone's kind of pushing like, well, we need something now, let's get it now. And it's like, well, let's just do it right. Like, that's what I keep telling people. Let's just do it right. So that's really where I'm coming from. I understand that money is a huge issue, and I think that's going to come. I think that if you have enough drive, all these other towns and communities, they have one. So if there's a will, there's a way.
Councillor Fuel?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Or,
Justin, I had,
One more.
you have one more?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I had a question regarding your committee. And as part of your planning for a potential recreation complex, has there been any thought to the feasibility of a stopgap measure? For example, we've kicked around in here quite often the idea of an addition to the current family center on the east side between it and the curling rink. Is that something that your committee has looked into, as whether or not it's feasible to improve the amount of ice time available to the various teams that are there? Is that one of the things that could be looked at or has been looked at?
Quite honestly, we haven't looked at that. We haven't discussed anything based on that. Really, I think the vision is having a whole new facility, and not to say that couldn't be an option. I think that I think the biggest thing is land.
Mm-hmm.
Having the big enough piece of land with parking and things like that. You know, if it's going to be, there's going to be enough people there. Is there going to be enough parking for a school? You know, a full rec center and things like that. So I think that's the biggest thing, is having enough land mass to put it on and make sure that, you know, and if potentially that in 10 years we have to add a piece to it that we need to, we have the ability to expand on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Rachel?
And with the greatest respect to you, Kristen, and Connie Wheatland, is that 40,000 a motion by council?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions? What are you looking from us tonight? What are you looking for from us tonight?
I think the biggest thing that I want from the council tonight is just a commitment that, you know, we have you standing with us, and that we know that I know that you're saying, well, the $5 million isn't signed, sealed, delivered. The school board is working with us. They've been sitting in our committee, so we're well aware of why it happened and things like that. At the same time, though, I also feel like I need the town to make sure that people don't see this as we're just building a rec center and there's no real plans, and saying, well, what is RRC for? What are you guys doing? Like the town has already done this. There's been no mention of us being part of it or making sure that that we have, you know, if that's the route that we go, then that's fine. I'm okay with that. But let's make sure that, like I say, we do it right. And so I don't feel that we had any, I'm going to say or mention to say, listen, if you guys do something, would this be something that you guys would look into? Or, you know, I don't know if you even knew that the town or the school was sitting on our committee as well. But I think that needs to be smoothed over, that we have a clear line of communication between the town, the county, the RRC, the school board, so that we are all working together, and we are going to make sure that the rec center is built properly the first time. So,
Your Worship.
Councillor Fuel?
Thank you, Tristan. One of the things I think we were aware of is that the school division, I mentioned that the school division was on the board. And one of the things that came out from the superintendent was that when he was trying to look at a way to possibly partner with the town and to get a commitment from us, again, it came down to another way to make another school for Strathmore that much more attractive to the province. And his feeling and his comments to us in that time period and since then has been that indoor soccer, lacrosse, indoor walking for seniors, for example, are high up on, and I did happen to read the needs assessment that was done in 2012. And those are things that are really up high on the needs assessment survey. So the superintendent presented it to us that this partnering or potential partnering with the school division would be, again, a way to make the school more attractive to be approved, and it would address 3 of the recreational needs that were very high on the list. And he went on to mention that there are a lot of children in this area playing soccer, and it's growing compared to hockey. That was one of the presentation points he made to us. So he's aware, we're aware of him, and these were the things that were presented to us that got us to look at showing a commitment to them. Why the two
Pardon me? Yes, and he did present to the county as well. So they're on the recreation board, so I'm not sure why there was some unknown factor, some kind of disconnect.
I knew that they presented both here and to the county. I was well aware of that. It was more the fact, I guess, the sense that, all of a sudden there was money put up for a rec facility, and it's kind of was like, and quite honestly, my phone was ringing off the hook. Like, people know I'm doing this. And like, I actually had somebody call me tonight. Hey, I heard you like building some new rec center. And I'm like, well, not yet. Like, hold your horses. But, and I'm like, that has nothing to do with me. And they're like, well, what's going on then? Like, what is going on then? Like, what are they even going to do? And I'm like, I don't really know. Like,
sorry, Tristan, but the other part that made the partnering idea so attractive for the council was that the school division would look at operations and sustainability of it. That would take it off our hands. And then it would look at a joint use agreement so that our town's residents would have access to it after a typical school day. So I guess what I'm saying is, just because our council thought that this was a good idea to partner with the school division and give us a better shot at having another school in town, doesn't mean that we are doing anything under the table or to go against a recreation facility that has ice surfaces. This just seemed like a really good way to get, like I said earlier, a bigger bang for our buck, and a way to get a school that much more attractive to be approved. Does it go away from a massive recreation complex where there's hockey surfaces, walking tracks, indoor soccer fields? Maybe, but it does address some of the major needs that were mentioned in the needs assessment. That's what I've come to learn since all these discussions went on with the school division, is that maybe the indoor soccer pitches are not necessarily going to be part of a major recreation facility, but it does address some of the needs of our residents.
Right. And I don't think I disagree with that, in the sense that it does have maybe the capability of addressing some of the major needs in the town. But at the same time, I also want you guys to make sure that you really take a deep look and saying, well, the school board, and I'm not saying that this isn't the way to go. I'm not saying that at all, because maybe it is. And we have the school board on our committee for a reason as well, because maybe this is the best route for everybody. And I'm not going to say yes or no, but I think that we have to look deeper in saying, if we're going to address number 1, 2, and 3, our needs assessment, well, then in 10 years, is there going to be another 1, 2, and 3? And how do we add on and make it sustainable at that point as well? Because we can't look at 2 years, we can't look at 5 years. We got to look down the road, and we got to make sure that this is going to be able to, have a future in it. And that we're not doing, again, like I say, one-offs and building here and building there, and then everything really doesn't become sustainable, and we can't afford things like that. So as much as sometimes the cheaper route and looking and saying, well, that looks good now, it might not look so good in 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, just one
Yes,
quick more
Council.
question. As a point of interest, Tristan, in your travels, and I'm sure you've asked many questions, is the arena one of in the top of the list, or is that the question?
A lot of people, they want an arena, but that's not the only thing. I mean, people want, they want a walking track, they want courts. Courts is a huge one. So the biggest thing, and I know that with the county is probably going to be a little bit of a debate, is the rink facilities. And I was actually having this discussion with my dad the other day, and he was one of the ones that had built the rink here in town. And I was saying, I think we're going to have a debate on the rinks, because it is something we need. Over 65% of minor ringette and hockey practices are outside of town. They are they're Strathmore minor hockey, minor ringette, and people are playing for our town, yet we're traveling to Czar, Standard, and Gleason, Rockyford, all of those places. And so obviously 65% of those practices and games are outside of our town. So there's obviously a huge need, whether hockey's dying or not. Our town is not. It is a very viable sport in this town. And I think that, an ice surface is. And, you know, people might say, well, if we take it away from these other little towns and they're going to die. They're not. They never have. The farmers look after them. They'll never let them die. You know, I just don't see it. This community is going to continue to grow. So it's going to be, you know.
That's the opposing argument that has been brought to me many times, that if we hadn't been using those rinks, that they would be shutting down. They can't work on them.
Well, they've been running for 30 or 40 years like that, so I don't see why they would why it would change. That, in my opinion, maybe it would, but you know, the town grows, the community grows. They're going to continue to use them.
Nothing further? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your worship, can we get a 3-minute recess?
Yeah.
3-minute recess? Okay.
I just want to get some
We're
water.
going to take a 3-minute recess if we might, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
My neighbors. He's 19, she's 87. They got a ticket. License. Went out and slept. Driving, and being his age, no. And by the time he got up and he did some shopping, town came and never stopped in the column. Threw some salt on, came the next day and took the ice off and sent him a bill for $100 and some bucks. And I just thought it was a little bit dirty cool. Now they won't, because of, and they worry that if they complain, then the town's going to cause some problems in this house. That, no, I know, but that's the way they think. Can you give me the address? Sure. 419.
419 what?
Strathmore Boulevard.
Strathmore Boulevard. Write that down. I'll check it out.
My neighbors.
Yeah, I know where you live.
Yeah.
I'll write it down.
Thank you. And they don't know I'm here.
No?
419.
One second for that. How much was the ticket?
I think don't quote me on that one. It was 100.
They would find out.
They would never be doing it.
I was never against that ballot. I was never for that ballot. I voted against it.
And the reason I mentioned it is, just a couple of meetings ago, you were talking about that.
Yeah, I voted against it. Yeah.
How was the holiday?
It was good. You didn't give me enough money. Back. My visa was smoking. I know. How much?
What's that? What?
The paper I buy.
This here?
Yeah.
$10.
Oh,
Yeah. I do take credit cards.
No, I said, oh, my credit.
No good. I can lend you 10. I don't have 10.
Test, test.
We'll write it up
And
after.
then that's a short start. The induction's gonna happen in March.
Doesn't take very much. Hey?
You don't mind taking it twice, I know that.
Oh, no, no. If you go with the boss, he doesn't want any money.
Excuse me, I'm like that. I know I put on a few pounds, but
I'll turn, the council meeting back in session.
Very well, thank you, Your Worship.
Your Worship, am I ever happy to see the Director of Finance? He's got great news for us, I'm assuming. Sure.
Good evening. The 2015 budget contained provision for a borrowing to fund the completion of certain road projects during the year, namely the reconstruction and hard surfacing of 4th Avenue, Lakeside Boulevard, and 2nd Street. The total budgeted cost is estimated to be $6.5 million. The town is proposing to apply provincial grants of roughly $3.5 million towards this project, with a balance of $3 million to be financed on a long-term borrowing basis. The borrowing is to be from Alberta Capital Finance on a 15-year basis. Their indicative rate presently is 1.99% for that length of term. The actual interest rate is set at the date of borrowing. It's anticipated that we would do the borrowing June 15th, and that's the next opportunity with Alberta Capital Financing, because they only do it quarterly. Just some other information relevant to this. At the end of December 31st, 2014, the town had $11.2 million of long-term debt outstanding. The percentage of debt utilized at that time was estimated to be 33%. With a debt limit of 33.3 million, and those are estimated numbers based on a future audited statement. Those are the best numbers that I can estimate. With the borrowing of $3 million, we will be adding approximately 10% to that 33%, and we'll be at 43%. We have $1.4 million scheduled of principal repayment during this 2015 calendar year. And if there is no other borrowing, we should end the year at approximately 38% of the utilization of the debt. The interest rate on the loans we repaid to the credit union on December 15th was 2.625%. And we anticipate borrowing at or around 2%. Council is requested to give first reading to bylaw 1507 in accordance with the MGA. After the first reading, a bylaw must be advertised for 2 weeks. The bylaw will be advertised, we anticipate, February 27th and March 6th.
Motion, or, are you allowed to ask questions? I don't think you are not.
Are you not?
You're just allowed to make a motion on this.
Okay, Your Worship, I move that council give first reading to bylaw 1507 in accordance with the MJ. After first reading, a borrowing bylaw must be advertised for 2 weeks. Is that the right one? I'm supposed to read?
Yes.
No? Just the, okay, then I move the council give first reading of bylaw 1507.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Land use bylaw amendment, Enfield Phase 2, planning and development.
Your Worship, this is for first reading. We've prepared a short report just to tell you what the bylaw is about. I trust it's self-explanatory.
Okay.
We may be coming back at second reading with a smaller P1 site.
Okay, we have a request for a bylaw. Councillor Graycheck?
I shall move that we give first reading to bylaw number 15-03.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Your
And
Worship,
carried.
I would move that council hold a public hearing for bylaw number 15-03 on March 18th, 2015.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? And carried. And thank you. And 7.1, request for proposals in regards to an ice cleaning machine. Community services. Ms. Simpson, if you would, please.
Good evening. Just want to start by apologizing for not being here last time it was on the agenda. And so thanks for the opportunity to bring it back a second time. As you know, in the 2015 budget, Town Council had approved funds to purchase a new ice resurfacing machine. Our proposal went out in January and we received 2 proposals. The first one is from Big Hill Services, which is our current provider. We currently use 2 Olympias, which are natural gas machines. Their proposal was for an ice bear electric machine, which after trade-in for our oldest machine would be $158,500. This machine is as familiar and similar to our existing machine as possible. It will be an electric machine over natural gas, but besides that, it would run and operate very similar, which would be a smooth transition for our staff. Currently, Big Hill has a number of Ice Bear Olympias in stock, which would be a quick turnaround time for us, which is a major plus. Typically, these machines are built in Europe. The second machine is built in Italy, and they take anywhere up to 6 months delivery time. So being able to receive it in 2 weeks is a great perk. Our current machine is quite old, as we've discussed in the past, and right now it's running very well, but there's no guarantees that it will make it another 6 months without major repairs. Last year we put close to $20,000 into rebuilding the engine and some of the parts. Just to give you an idea of where that machine is, how it's working. The second machine is a Engo electric machine from a company called Joe Johnson. They're originally from Ontario, but they have a shop in Calgary. This machine operates quite differently. The Olympias are very similar to a car. You use a steering wheel, foot pedals, brakes, etc., whereas the Engo is operated with a joystick. So it'd be a steep learning curve to operate the machine on ice for our operators. We've never worked with them in the past, so we have no point of reference in terms of service. We did call references, and for the most part, it was very positive in terms of turnaround time for service. On that note, we did receive a community communication form from a resident of Strathmore who used to work in arenas, who strongly urged the town not to go with them because he did not enjoy using that machine and they had lots of problems with it. So I thought I would include that for you. In terms of warranty, which is it's an important part of purchasing a machine. The batteries on both machines cost roughly the same to replace, and they have the same life warranty, which is 5 years. The one major difference between the machines is the Big Hill Olympia is a stainless steel chassis, and it comes with a 25-year warranty. The Joe Johnson Ngo machine is a galvanized steel and only comes with a 5-year warranty. After consulting with the family center staff, the operators, and the management, we would recommend that we purchase the Big Hill Service Olympia machine for the cost of $158,500 after trade-in for our one machine. Questions?
Okay, questions? Deputy Mayor Walls.
Your worship, I do, to our director. A couple questions. After speaking, I did have a number of comments I sent to Dr. Stanford. Tracy did give me a call, and we spent some time on the phone discussing some of them. I would like to just run through some of those questions with council's authority. That way, we're all on the same page. I know one of the comments made last time was having different parts on hand. How many parts do we actually store on hand for these different machines?
We personally don't store very many parts, mainly because of two reasons. We don't have a lot of room at the family center, so we try not to keep a ton of stuff there. The other thing is we would still have to bring a mechanic out to put the parts on, so it doesn't really make all that much sense.
Okay. And my subsequent question to that would be, can the parts be interchangeable? So with the electric unit compared to the propane unit, are they interchangeable parts?
Between an Olympia to an Olympia?
Yeah.
Certain parts. So for example, the blades that we use to scrape the ice are interchangeable. Some of the parts on the inner workings, not so much because it's different.
This will be obviously a new unit for us as it's electric. How many hours of training is going to be required for our staff?
They said it would be a full day's training. Because they'd be familiar with how the machine operates, it would be strictly on the maintenance of the batteries, the charging process. And that is included, that full day in service is included in the price for both companies.
So the major difference in the warranty is the stainless steel is 25 years warranty and the galvanized is 5.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Worship.
Councilor Sommel?
Thank you. I don't know if there was much focus being put on the turnaround time as much probably there should be. So I guess my question first is there any ice surface in the center during the summertime?
Yes, there is. We have only about a month and a half every year where there's absolutely no ice. And then we operate about 4 months a year with one ice surface at a time.
So if that one unit goes...
We do have a second unit where we do operate 2. It's very feasible to get through with one, that being in the summer, especially. Right now, we're going into playoff season. This would be the worst possible time for a machine to go down because we are packed every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Graychuk?
The other thing that hasn't been brought up there, Your Worship, is that my experience with trading machinery is that when you're going from a Cadillac to maybe not a Cadillac, and the resale value on this one isn't going to be as great as your Olympia, and that is a big factor. I think and the council should consider that. Your Olympia is going to be a better resale value, is what I'm saying.
Sure. I don't know. The electrics haven't been on the market very long, so I'm not sure what they're reselling for, but potentially. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they're reselling for, so I don't know if that's a fact, but I would assume that one that's more high end, like you said, a Cadillac would have a better resale value in the end. We have very low resale value on our current Olympias because, for lack of a better word, we've worn them into the ground. They're pretty much on their last legs. Yeah.
Councilor Boland?
We finished?
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to our director, So right now we have the Olympia there.
We have 2 Olympias.
Okay. I'm just curious, and they run on what? Natural gas, propane?
Currently, they both run natural gas.
Natural gas. So now we're going to go to electric?
Correct.
Is that what they advised, or is that what we asked for? Or is,
Um,
do they still make natural gas, or?
They still make natural gas. Yep.
I'm just
and
curious
they still,
why.
Yeah. So there's a couple of reasons we've decided to go with an electric. It was one of their recommendations. They're running. They're becoming more popular in the industry. They run. Obviously not on natural gas, so they're slightly less expensive. They're also more environmentally sustainable, and they emit less emissions into your facility, which is good for everyone's health. We also did some research into what other people are doing, and lots of other facilities in Alberta are going to the electric, and they're very happy with them. And so that was the reason we chose to go to the electric model. Natural gas models are less expensive in the capital costs.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Walsh?
Your Worship, I guess if I could just make a comment. I was, at the start of this, I was very concerned about the $14,000. After having a conversation with our director, understand that we're in a fairly fiscal, we need to start being more fiscally conservative, especially with the economic uncertainty. My concern now is if this machine goes down and we only have a 1-month turnaround, the spare unit, if you call it that, it's going to put our staff in a very tough position. And with this new information that's being presented, I'm prepared to support the motion to get the much more expensive unit. But I'd like the administration to be financially aware of where we're going in the future, because with this oil the way it is, we're going to start to face some uncertainty, and ultimately we have one taxpayer, us. So at this time, I'm prepared to support this motion.
If I may ask a question or two, they're going to take the old ice machine. Do you have any idea what they're going to do with it?
They're going to break it down for parts for any older machines of that version on the market.
So we're looking at putting up an outdoor arena right now. How are we going to resurface that?
I believe we're looking at purchasing a smaller Zamboni type machine that's pulled behind a tractor to clean that surface. I see where you're going with that. And the downsides to keeping the machine and using it for outdoor surface, the biggest issue is we have nowhere to store it. We'd have to build a facility near the outdoor rink, because in our family center, we only have room for 2 machines. We wouldn't be able to hold the third. It also takes training to learn how to use the Olympias, and so we'd have to send additional staff from Parks or Egg Society or whomever to learn how to use that machine, and that would be.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
No further questions?
Your Worship, I'd move the council award the ice cleaning machine RFP to Big Hill Services Limited for the amount not to exceed $158,500 plus GST, and the mayor and CEO be authorized to sign the contract on behalf of the town.
Any further discussion? Councillor Fuel?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question to the chair, Ms. Simpson. That amount, is it 158.5 and GST will be on top of that? Or is that the amount?
GST will be on top of that.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
GST has been paid that, I think. No further questions? No? All in favor? Carried.
Thank you for your work on this project, Tracy.
Thank you.
All right, next item 7.2, a 10-minute response. Administration, please.
For quite a while, we've been looking at options like a 10-minute response. And we have, the firemen have gone out, they've driven and done tests and so on. And anyway, council wants something that was official, that we could say yes and adopted by council so that we can follow that. So we did, I'm going to stand part of the time, but anyway. So anyway, with that in mind, we checked around with several companies, several communities, and they're saying that Bear BHR is one of the best recognized for doing 10-minute responses, such as they have done several of the communities around Calgary and even work in Calgary. So with that in mind, we hired them about a month ago, and they put together a chart. And the chart that they've got is saying this is the 10-minute response time. And it's based on NFPA 1720, which is American and Canadian standard. So this is what they're saying is our 10-minute response in town. Some may argue one way or the other, but anyway, they've gone record saying this is our 10-minute response area. Now, it covers the majority of the town, including the west part, like Cancorp, most of their area and all. The one area that it doesn't cover is up here in the top in Lakewood Meadows. It's not covered at all there. And then Hillview is not covered. But anyway, in Lakewood Meadows, the only way that that can be covered is if there's a small fire hall in the north part of town. And if you, I don't know if everybody can see it, but anyway, if there was a fire hall in the north part of town, that would cover Hillview, Lakewood Meadows, and if you can see all the future development north of that area. So it covers a very large area, which makes it very nice. So anyway, I guess the big problem is right now, we have no fire hall in the north part of town. And with that in mind, we've talked about building a small, possibly building a small fire hall in the north end of town, which would be, say, 30 feet wide, maybe about 40 feet long, and it would be like a steel type building. And anyway, I contacted one of our local builders that builds lots of these kind of buildings right here in town. And I talked to him on Friday. He did research on it, figured out the cost, and came back to me today saying it would be $90 per square foot. So if you take, say, 40 by 30s, 1,200 at 90. And so anyway, depending if it's 40 or 48 long, somewhere in that area. And there'd be lots of room on the side so that they could take the hose off and take care of those and hang their goods and so on. So in addition to that cost, there'd also be the cost of leveling the land there a little bit. It's pretty good there now even. It's pretty flat up there. And then in addition to that, there'd be the cost taking the water and sewer across the road, across North Boundary Road, into a site there for the small fire hall. And with that in mind, if council doesn't agree, and if a small fire hall is not built up there, the developer of Lakewood Meadows would have to follow the building code, of course, and that means putting sprinklers in all the houses, or else following the code pertaining to special drywall on the walls and so forth. So anyway, I guess the thing I wanted to bring up and talk about tonight a little bit is if we build a fire hall in the north, would the developers help pay for part of it? For example, Lakewood Meadows pay for part of it. Would Cancorp want to pay for part of it? Because in the future, if you look on this close, once you get up in the northern part of Cancorp's property, it's not covered. It's way up there, but there is an area that's not covered in the future. So anyway, I just want some discussion on it.
Well, before we get into that, you're talking about the 10-minute response maps. Do you want us to approve those first, and then we'll go on?
Sure. Good point.
Then the other one is 8.6.
Okay.
So do you want to then go right on to 8.6
Yes.
after we do this? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion? Councilor Peterson?
I would move that council support the plan and the 10-minute response area maps created by Bear Energy Services. and adopt the plan and the map as a 10-minute response area for the town of Strathmore.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. Thank you.
Okay, good. So jumping on to 8.6, I should have combined it, to be honest. But so on there, we need to discuss, are we willing to? I've talked to both developers some, and anyway, no particular figures have come out. I don't even think they have seen the estimated cost because I just got that this afternoon. So anyway, so if you depend on size, 130,000 or whatever, and then taking the services across the road, I would estimate at maybe $40,000, 30, 40,000, somewhere in there. And anyway, I guess that's.
Okay, Councilor Graychuk?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think time is of the essence here for this particular developer, because his lots are already set and he can't really change much. So that I was wondering if we'd maybe just direct administration to get us a more detailed report on it as quick as possible, so that we can make an accurate decision as to what how quickly we can move on this project. And the other thing being is that once we do get a decision, if we're going to go forward with the fire hall, would and council approves that, would the Department of or Alberta Environment go along with us if we committed that to them? You know, we got to get a question from them to. Or
I think
whatever.
you're talking the Alberta Safety Code.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, because normally you have to have the hull up and operational and not just planned. But maybe we could get special approval from the Alberta Safety Code, because the fire hall could be built and operational before anybody's living in the houses.
Are you looking for direction?
Well, we'll just do our questions first.
Okay.
Councilor Sobel?
Yeah, and I support your position on this, Councilor Graychuk. I think that's the direction we should go, is send this back to administration. But having said that, I do have a question. I'm wondering if there's been any input from our fire department, our fire chief, in regards to the addition of the second fire hall. I'm thinking of how, basically how this is going to work up there.
Okay, they've the fire chief seen the drawings and all. I think the firemen would prefer to do different than building another hall. But anyway, it does speed things up big time. Most of the firemen live in Strathaven. From Strathaven, they could cut across, grab the truck out of there. We just have one truck in there. Grab the truck, they can go to Brentwood, back to Strathaven, all that northern part.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Graychuk, would you like to make a motion?
No, I didn't prepare one. Whatever I rattled off there.
The motion I do believe reads that administration prepare a report for council in regards to the viability of a fire hall in the northwest corner of town, bringing forward to council estimated costs to build, cost to operate, and also how much funding the developer is willing to provide. It was a bit of a wordy one, yeah, Councilor Graychuk. Don't make him quite that wordy, okay? We have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And just a friendly amendment, prompt. There is some time is of the essence on that, I think.
Yeah.
Pedestrian bridge 7.3, and is that administration also? Engineering and operations.
I'll go ahead and talk about that one as well. When Jesse put the budget together, he assumed that the bridge crossing the canal would be about the same as the one we put over in Aspen. And a company in Ontario built that, And so it was the cost of building it, the cost of hauling it out here, the cost of putting the piles in, the cost of bringing the big crane in to lift the bridge up on there. Anyway, when he went to get quotes here a month ago or whatever, he found out that the company in Ontario had really raised the price. And once he got all the figures in, it was going to be estimated at 160,000. So it was 60,000 more than was budgeted for. It was suggested we contact a company, I believe it's in Linden, and see what they could do, because they do some welding. They have an engineer on staff and so on. And anyway, they came forth with a figure 5,000 less. Talking to some of the staff, the comments have been, the company in Ontario builds them continually, and the company in Linden has built maybe a couple of them or whatever. And there was discussion, if it's about 5,000 difference, would we get the firm that builds lots of them with all kinds of expertise and experience? So that's that. Then I guess the key thing is, council willing to put in another 60,000 estimated to put the bridge across there. I know the people in that area really want the bridge, and basically it's a walking bridge so that people can cross there, get on the various pathways and all. And anyway, I think the majority of the people over there definitely want it.
Any questions to administration, Councillor Sobel?
Yeah, just small correction, it's actually $10,000 difference.
Pardon me?
It's actually $10,000 difference.
Okay, sorry, I missed.
But I guess I'm curious. I'm more curious. I'm just not satisfied that we're leaning towards Royal Arch, or we're discounting CBI for legitimate reasons. So I'm wondering if anybody has done any contact with CBI's customers, done some reference checks in regards to what kind of work they do. I mean, is this a perceived concern, or is it an actual one?
I can't answer that. I know that Bryce, I talked to him up there, asked him for an estimate, and they got back to him shortly afterwards and gave him a price. I don't know if Steve knows any more on that or not.
I haven't been involved with that at all.
Okay, it was just Jesse and Bryce.
And the only other comment, I really, I mean, I'm prepared to put this off until we get some reference checks on for $10,000. I think we should do some additional inquiries and find out really quite specifically why we're leaning towards one rather than the other. But in regards to the whole concept, I mean, we'll talk about needs, neighborhood needs, etc. And walkability is a really big and important part of keeping our communities together. And right now, there's no connectivity between Walrose and Strathmore Lakes or the rest of the town. So I think this is important. I mean, it's unfortunate the price has gone up. I'm not happy with that price, but the success of the bridge that was put up in Aspen really speaks very loudly as to what connectivity does to a community. Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Wells.
Your Worship, just through to Dr. Stanford, I guess what I'm wondering is, I noticed that the two prices there, one says includes delivery, one says does not include delivery. Do you know what the cost would be to deliver that bridge down here?
It's in there somewhere.
I think it's there.
Yeah.
Well, the one says, oh, so 7,000. So in other words, the bridge that Councillor Sobel's talking about is actually still cheaper.
By 3,000.
By 3,000. I guess my subsequent question would be, so if we budget 100,000, well, I'm showing 59,250, $7,000
The grand
to
total is 154. And the grand total
one.
on the
So
other
we're
one is
talking,
164.
so we're talking $10,000.
10,000, yes.
All right, sorry, I stand corrected. So where would the additional 54,000 come from?
Yes, financial stabilization. And
Your Worship, I guess my subsequent question would be is is that sugar tree going to eventually die on us?
Must have already.
Yeah, it's already.
There's still money in there if we need it.
Councillor Fuel?
Thank you, Your Worship. I did find out some information, a little bit more that might help us with CBI. They have built bridges and oil rigs in the past, and the bridges that they've built in the Linden area. They have 10 engineers on staff, and I was told they have the largest powder coating facility in Western Canada. So they are able to build large-scale things such as this bridge. I'm wondering again, like Councillor Soul mentioned, is that we could maybe double check on this. And I'm wondering if Royal Arch has been contacted. Has it been a month ago that we got this? Because I remember this figure of coming in quite high, quite a few months back. And I'm just wondering if now that the economy has turned, things have changed in price, much like the interest rate we're looking at for Lakeside Boulevard and the other roads.
It's a possibility.
Okay. Councillor Graychuk?
Well, I too are certainly in favor that we got to connect to communities, and I think this bridge is a vital part of connecting the communities. With these, what's the urgency of the minutes? Has been requested for some time now, has it not? We've been working on this, for a year or?
Yeah, a good year, yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that I'm in favor, and I agree with a couple of my councillors here that saying that, that with the tough economic times, there's got to be some people out there that can build this cheaper. I mean, a bridge is a bridge is a bridge, and if you give them the engineering, I'm sure that we can get quotes on various parts of Alberta that can build this. There's got to be people slowing down that would do this just to keep their employees working.
Okay, when we tendered the other one, the Ontario company was thousands cheaper than all the ones in Calgary. And I think there was about 10 firms in Calgary that gave quotes on it. There's lots in Calgary that can build it, but they were way too high. But now, maybe we should go back to all of them, now that oil and everything's happened. So maybe we should go back and approach all those companies, the Ontario company and even this one, saying, okay, what's the cheapest you can do it for?
Your Worship, if I could just add on to Councillor Graychuk's comment, I heard today from someone who knows the company well that their work is the one in Linden, CBI. Their work has slowed down greatly because of the oil rigs that they typically make a lot of oil rigs, and that's been curtailed by the economy. So it may very well turn out that we have lower prices.
Now, in that particular company, though, we just got the quote from here in the last couple of weeks. Have things that already slowed down.
Okay.
Unless you had a supplemental.
Well, it was something, just add to that statement is that I've been out to Wheatland, Hutterite Colony, and they build bridges for rigs all the time, and they got it engineered and everything else. Has anybody talked to them?
Okay, here's the problem there. It's got to be engineer designed, engineer stamped, engineer supervised, and we contacted, I don't want to say which engineering firm, to see if they would go out and supervise it. But the cost they wanted to go out there every day to make sure all the welding's done and all was a problem. Matter of fact, they didn't want to do it. But it has to be designed and supervised by an engineer.
And they don't have engineers out there?
No. At the colonies, no.
They must be building their bridges illegal now.
Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just thinking in terms of what my fellow councillors were speaking about, that we had much higher rates in mind when we looked at the low interest rates for borrowing. We think that the construction on 4th is going to come in lower. We're very, very hopeful that it's going to come in much lower. I'm hoping that the savings that we will have there that we budgeted for can be put here. And is there any possibility that that we can wait till April, and when we meet that we will know more at that time? And
we could do. I may be wrong, but I was told, but it was secondhand, that you need to do it before the canal water's in it, or you'd have to do it after the canal water was put in. But I don't know if that's correct.
I bet it is correct.
Councillor Blofeld?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just food for thought. The city of Calgary ordered an engineered bridge here a couple of months ago and it doesn't fit. Maybe we should ask about
And
that
the
one.
other one came in several millions over budget, didn't it?
Used bridges,
The piece.
slightly used.
We could get several out of it because it's going to cost the whole river.
Maybe we could do it for the next 10 years. We have bridges.
No further questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that this matter be adjourned to the first council meeting in March for an update.
We have a motion to bring this forward to the first council meeting in March. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. Thank you. Next is a motor grader and operations is going to talk.
I think it's 8.1 first.
8.1? Well, full-time heavy duty. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
I flipped pages to the wrong side.
Good evening, Your Worship, Council. With the purchase of the extra equipment in the public works and parks area and the added vehicle requirements for staff, the workload on our heavy duty mechanic has become overwhelming and time consuming. It's felt by this department there's a definite need for a heavy duty apprentice mechanic to help out in the shop. The recommendation would be to hire a second or third year apprentice that could complete the basic preventative maintenance tasks and basic repairs on our vehicles and equipment. This position would gain experience and knowledge to complete preventative maintenance and repairs and to fill in for our current heavy duty mechanic during his vacation and any sick days. When the apprenticeship is complete, this person would fulfill the task for a heavy duty journeyman mechanic within our growing department. The average wage with research we did for an apprentice, second year apprentice, heavy duty apprentice, is $27 an hour. The average wage for a third year heavy duty apprentice mechanic would be $30. I'm sorry, it was 27 for the second year and 30 for the third year. I would ask council to approve the hire of a full-time second or third year heavy duty apprentice mechanic for the common services department.
Questions? Councilor Sobel?
Not wanting to put you on the spot here, Steve, but can you take a guess at how many vehicles our heavy duty mechanic is presently responsible for? I knew that was going to be
not off the top of my head. I couldn't. Basically, all of the parts, vehicles and equipment, all the public works stuff. He does get taken up to the facilities from time to time. He does do the safety inspections on the fire equipment, as well as public works equipment. So he does get stretched a little thin.
Maybe doing fire vehicles as well.
For the CDIP inspections, yes.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Walls?
Your Worship, not a question, more of a comment. I'm prepared to support any staffing requirements by Dr. Stanford. I know he runs a very tight, lean ship, and I know he wouldn't be coming to us with this recommendation unless he felt that it was vitally important for our organization to carry forward. So,
Councilor Peterson?
I would move the council approve the hire of a full-time second or third year heavy-duty apprentice mechanic for the Common Services Department, Your Worship.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Just one request, comment.
Please.
The administration and the only reason why we're doing this is that this is not in the present budget.
That's correct.
Yes.
If I might speak to the motion, I think when our previous director of engineering came forward, when we were doing budget, he came forward with a long list of vehicles. If I remember correctly, there were 19 or 20 half-ton, three-quarter-ton trucks, and many of them were at that time, he noted, in very high need of maintenance. So we certainly understand that was an eventuality that that we could be faced with, and so I know that it is a need, and I follow my fellow councillors' assessment in this. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Does the heavy-duty mechanic also maintain the gas vehicles?
Absolutely, yes.
So it's one mechanic for the whole.
For everything.
All of the.
All the small equipment as far as the hand tools for products. All the gas power stuff.
Okay. And the only comment that I would have, I support hiring the extra mechanic, because I feel confident that it's needed. The only thing I would do is encourage trying to make sure that we put it in our budget each year to know what our needs are in regards to our staffing in the future. So we have a motion on the floor. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Your Worship, perhaps Councillor Peterson would approve a friendly amendment to her motion to include the costs for the position as well as where the funds will come from.
So from $27 an hour to $30 an hour, and coming out of financial stabilization?
Yes, I do have yearly amounts as well.
Yep.
So I have 68,515.20 for second year and 76,128 for third year. That includes all employee contributions or employer contributions.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Bothman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the chair to Steve, are you, how should I ask this? Are you comfortable with an apprentice?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know that there's, at times there is a need for two full journeymans, but I don't think there is all the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Chris, our mechanic, is in support of it. He's comfortable with the idea. I believe it's a good.
I guess being involved in a trade where I've worked with apprentices over quite a number of years, you just get them trained to where you want them, and they seem to go somewhere else.
That's
Hopefully, yeah, and hopefully that doesn't happen here.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. No, I was just asking that question. Thanks, Steve.
Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just can't relate to your comment slide about directing administration to be more careful in the future, because certainly when this was brought to us in November, we were very aware of this and of all the other issues that were in front of us. And we made the decision knowingly that we knew that our vehicles were in difficult state, that we were hanging on because we have an excellent mechanic and great people in the shop, and we knew that this would be an eventuality. So it certainly wasn't on administration, it was on us. And so I'm grateful that you've come forward with the solution for an apprenticeship. And I think that's a really sound solution to a difficult problem, and I think it's great for planning and sustainability into the future, and I appreciate it. I thank administration for that.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? And carried. And thank you. Deputy Mayor Walsh.
Your Worship, just while we're still in the whole staffing comment, I'd like to direct administration officially. I'd like to have the spring workshop, a detailed list of what we need for every department. Dr. Stanford, if you could get that to us so we can start to see where we're going to be the next 3 to 5 years.
What?
Yes, we can do that. We've done it in the past. So we can do it again, not be.
I'm just a little confused. What is it that we're looking for?
So I'm looking to know what type of staffing requirements we need now and in the future as we're growing. I think it's important for us to start planning this stuff out.
I think we had it.
Yeah.
We had it last time we met in November. We had that in detail.
Generally at the spring workshop, when you're talking about future planning, that's where that stuff would come forward.
I don't know how much work that would be for Mr. Stanford. I'm not in need of that. I'm relying on Mr. Stanford to come to us and ask us for positions when they need them. Once again, I'm cautious about interfering in his realm at this point.
And Your Worship, I guess the comment back to Council would be, if we're responsible for budgets, it's important for us to be fiscally responsible. So it's a little tough for me to budget money or plan on budgeting money if I don't know what the requirements are. And long-term planning this information was going to help me to make a better decision on where funds need to be directed for budgeting purposes.
Well, I don't know if we need a motion on that, but.
Just for
I'm
information
prepared to
purposes.
Support that.
Yeah, just for information purposes. Unless you wanted to make a motion.
It's whatever council wishes. I'd like that information to come forward to the spring workshop.
Quite often we ask for things to come forward to spring workshop and we don't make motions. Next item is a motor grader, and again, Mr. Barna.
There was the motor grader RFP was posted on the APC's website in January. It closed on February 9th. The town received 4 submissions that were opened on February 9th and reviewed on the 10th. The review focused on specifications and information requested in the RFP. The only submission from only the submission from Brand Tractor met all the town's specifications. Also, a GP series additional option was presented for the additional cost of $22,700. This option gives the operator unobstructed view of the blade and road. It assists the operator to prevent unnecessary damage to the machine, road surface, manhole covers, valve covers, curbs, etc. The GP option is an added cost, but it's definitely worth it. The recommendation would be to ask council to award the RFP for the motor grader to Brand Tractor Limited for the purchase price of $348,200 plus GST, with the additional amount of $22,700 plus GST for the GP option, with the funds to be drawn from financial stabilization.
Are there any questions?
Your Worship, I'm prepared to make a motion if you're ready for it.
Yes, please.
Obviously, this grader is brand new and it's heavier duty than the one, much heavier duty than the one we got.
Absolutely.
And it'll take a snow blade on the side or.
Yep, it's equipped with the snow wing on the side. Also has a quick launch mount on the front. That at some point we could put a blade on the front of it if required. The snow wing does come off when it's not required. It is 6-wheel drive. Our existing grader is only rear-wheel drive. The GP option, I've attached, had some photos attached. I've run both the graders, the G and the GP. I've run both of them. The GP is definitely gives the operator the edge as far as seeing what they're doing, preventing. You can't stop hitting stuff, but if we can give them that little bit of an advantage, it's definitely worth it.
Deputy Mayor Phil?
Your Worship, to Dr. Stanford, how much was budgeted for this grader? 333. Okay, so we're a little bit over. Okay. So, Your Worship, I'd move the council award the RFP for the motor grader to Brand Tractor Limited for the purchase price of $348,200 plus GST, with the additional amount of $22,700 plus GST for the GP option, with funds to be drawn from the financial stabilization. Now, Your Worship, I guess my question on that would be, so the $333,000 would come out of our budget, and the additional money would come out of our financial stabilization.
We have a motion on the floor. Councilor Peterson?
I just want to say, Your Worship, that bridge is getting really narrow.
Wait. Good news coming.
Councilor Grace.
Added in that motion, the endless financial.
The endless.
A lot of it.
It's
Tree's
not.
dead.
It's not.
The tree's dead.
We have a motion on the floor. No further discussion? All in favor?
Oh.
Oh, sorry. We'll take that back. I didn't.
Sorry, Roger.
Sorry. sorry, Councilor Broken, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the chair to Steve. Is there a real panic to get this grader really fast, or do we have a timeline, or?
I believe it's a 12-week delivery.
Well, we're not getting any more snow this winter, so we don't need it for snow. Again, we keep talking about the downturn and what's going on in Alberta here. Do you think 3-6 months from now, these prices might come down if there's not a big demand for these things?
I don't believe so, not with equipment. I've been involved with the municipality that I was employed at before, with purchasing equipment, and it doesn't drop.
Okay.
If anything, it always seems to be increasing. They always have a valid reason for it, whether it's the exchange on the dollar or the demand.
I guess my second question might be, do we always buy brand new, or would we look, considering looking at used? Or is there such a place around for used stuff?
I don't know, being that we keep our equipment for as long as what I've seen that we have here, I don't know if buying used would be a smart move for the kind of dollar value.
Mhm.
When you look at the cost or what they're asking for used equipment, there's really not much of a savings for what you're getting.
No, you're probably correct on that. I was just asking. I guess what I'm looking at is we are going to be $37,000 over budget here. But if there's no other possible options, I guess we have to eat the bullet. Thank you.
All righty. We have a motion on the floor. No further discussion. Seeing none. Oh, well, just hold on a second. Dr. Stanford.
We need to ensure that we have the amount in there in detail, okay? And where the funds are coming from.
I think it said in the motion.
Does it say the balance?
It does, Your Worship.
Well, it says the purchase price of $348,200 plus GST with an additional amount of $22,700 plus GST with the GP option with funds to be drawn from financial stabilization. But it doesn't say the funds in excess of
That's
300.
what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, the funds in excess of the budget
Yes.
approved amount of $333,633.
Your Worship, I'll accept as a friendly amendment.
Okay, all in favor? And carried. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the Canadian Cancer Society Relay for Life. And
No.
Town.
Oh, for golly. Yes, I'm sorry. I thought, yep. Anyways, Mr. Varna, please.
It was decided when we put the RFP out, all 3 trucks would be tendered as a package, hopefully to gain a savings with doing a larger commercial order. The town work trucks RFP was posted on the ABC website in January and closed on February 9th. Copies were delivered to Strathmore Motor Products and Strathmore Ford on January 20th, 2015. Town received 3 submissions that were open on the 9th of February and reviewed on the 10th. The review focused on the specifications and information requested in the RFP. Strathmore Motor Products meets most of the specifications, vehicle size, and it's come in with the lowest bid. Strathmore Ford bid was incomplete as only 1 truck was forward. Cochrane Dodge had bid 2 3/4 tons and a diesel engine rather than what we had asked for with a 1/2 ton, 3/4 ton, and a 1 ton. It's recommended that council approve the award. Council award the RFP to Town of Strathmore 2015-03 work truck to Strathmore Motor Products for the purchase of a 2015 Sierra 1500 for $26,000. It's all within the budget, so we're okay. Plus GST. The 2015 Sierra 2500 heavy duty for $33,260 plus GST. 2015 Sierra 3500 heavy duty for $34,837 plus.
Deputy Mayor Walsh?
Your worship, I have two questions. Maybe our operations department can answer this question. What do you mean by most of the specifications?
We had asked for the long box, an 8-foot box. Apparently, the manufacturers don't make them anymore with certain cab requirements. Like we'd asked for the extended cab, 3/4, but I believe it was with the 8-foot box. Nobody makes that anymore.
And your worship, my subsequent question would be, Dr. Stanford, what was our budget for this category?
It's in there.
It was over $100,000.
Where does it say? Oh.
It came in quite a bit under our budget.
Yes, Councillor Sobel.
$40,123 to be specific.
There we go.
Which makes a nice bridge, if I may say so.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
I might note that the 1 ton is just a cab and chassis. We did have to purchase the box.
There you go.
And may I ask a question in regards to that? When you say you have to purchase one, I'm assuming that you're going to be retiring an old truck. Would you not take that off the old truck?
No,
No?
we
Okay.
were wanting to keep the old truck. There's the need for it between the parks and public works.
Okay, good. Further questions? Councillor Boakland?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through to Steve. I really like these numbers. That makes up for the 37 we were short on the previous one. Doesn't do much for the bridge, I guess.
And that's all? That was.
I'm not gonna read all that.
Councillor Graychuck?
I think we better order these before the dollar goes down tomorrow.
No. Nothing further?
Your Worship, I move that, where's that motion? Was it down here?
67. Page 67 at the bottom.
Your Worship, I move that Town Council award the Town of Strathmore 2015-03 Town Work Truck RFP to Strathmore Motor Products for the purchase of a 2015 Sierra 1500 for $26,770 plus GST. A 2015 Sierra 2500 heavy duty for $33,260 plus GST. And a 2015 Sierra 3500 heavy duty for $34,847 plus GST.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. And I think we're finished now, and thank you.
Thank you.
And I would suggest that we've helped the Alberta economy tremendously. Next item on our agenda is 8.4, donation request Relay for Life Canadian Cancer Society.
The town of Strathmore has received a donation request from the Canadian Cancer Society local chapter for Strathmore and Union County Relay for Life. It's a bit of a different one, so I'm just going to kind of walk you through it. What they're requesting is for the use of a public swim time, which is 2 hours on either a Saturday or Sunday. And instead of people paying the town to enter, they would like to collect donations at the door as people are entering our public swim as a fundraiser. The weekend would be either Saturday, March 28th or Sunday, March 29th. And the request meets the requirements identified in our donation policy, which is attached.
Councillor Sobel?
So just so I'm clear, so other than some loss of revenue during this 2 hour period of time, there would be no additional costs. This would be a public, is this a public swim time?
It's a public swim time, yeah. So we would
regularly
staff it.
scheduled?
Yeah, correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Peterson?
And would it take the public out of the swimming pool during that time?
No, it would be open to anybody in the public, same rules as public
Lovely.
swim.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion then, please?
Your Worship, I would move that council donate the use of the Strathmore Aquatic Center during public swim on March 28th from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. with proceeds going towards the Canadian Cancer Society Relay for Life fundraising efforts.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Carried. I wonder if we get a tax deduction for that. Next item on our agenda is a donation request from Strathmore Minor Ringette Hockey Association under 12B. I don't know what the B stands for. It must be the class. Ringette Provincials and Community Services. Ms. Simpson.
Town Council has received a donation request from Strathmore Minor Ringette Association for donation of the ice facilities at the Family Center while for hosting the 2015 U12B Alberta Provincial Championships. This is a 3-day tournament which will include 28 games. This donation meets the requirements of the current donation policy. Unfortunately, I don't have a final number on this because they don't have a final schedule for the tournament. I do have just 1 second. I do have what it cost last year for a similar event. I forgot to add it though. My apologies. It was right around. So I'll just
Yeah, when she's getting the information. Okay, go ahead.
Your worship, I guess my question would be to Dr. Stanford or maybe our Director of Community Services. Can you tell us what the curling rink or the rink law, the ice rink Family Center cost us to operate last year? How much we lost?
what did it cost or what did it lose?
I don't even know what I'm trying to ask anymore.
Right.
What was our operating deficit?
Operating deficit was around $775,000.
And do events like this help to offset that incredible size loss?
Yes, every year in our revenues budget, we budget a certain amount for special events, which includes our tournament. And I believe this year that was right around $24,000 that we budgeted for tournaments.
Thank you.
Have the number.
Yes.
Last year was right around 3,800, and so that would be roughly what it would be for this year's tournament.
5,400?
Can I ask you what you mean by 3,800
That's what it cost last year for them to rent the ice for a similar size tournament.
for the 3 days?
For the 3 days.
3,800?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's just the ice. That's not meeting rooms or the Civic Center for additional activities, which is often associated with tournaments.
Okay. Councillor Sobel?
Your worship, I guess my concern here is that this is a tournament. This is not a fundraiser. This is just a tournament that I mean, and they take place all year round. And having brought up a couple kids in the hockey world as youngsters, that was part of our responsibility to pay for ice time when we went on tournaments. And I think this is stretching our policy a little bit in regards to what the concept, our proposal was in regards to, thank you, donating the civic center and the family center, et cetera. So I don't know, I just have some concerns that this doesn't fit the idea of what we had in mind when we brought the policy.
Okay. Further questions? Who's first? Deputy Mayor Wells?
Go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Is there an opportunity for ringette clubs to make money?
Absolutely. Tournaments are often seen as fundraisers in associations. Some of these events, like provincials, they bid on them. The only reason really an association would bid on that is one of the main reasons is to make money for their association. And it is common practice to build the ice rental costs into that registration fee.
Yeah, so in respect to what Councillor Sobel said, I think that typically we wouldn't entertain requests to waive fees in this regard, but it concerns me when you say that it fits the criteria. That's a concern. So that is a concern of ours, because clearly that was never the intention. And so, Your Worship, at a different time, I'm prepared to act upon that.
Okay. Further questions? Deputy Mayor Walls?
Your Worship, just to echo along the same comments as Councillor Sobel, I guess I could support this if it was just maybe just the ice, but now we're talking about staffing, we're talking about our machinery that, as you know, is coming up, and I'm as much as I appreciate what the Strathmore Minor Ringette Association does for our town, our community, and the economic benefit that we're going to receive out of them hosting the Alberta Provincial Championships. In my mind, this is something that I cannot support.
Further questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Your Worship, if Council's ready, I would move to accept this as information.
We have a motion to accept this as information. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Graychuk?
As I don't believe this, I don't believe this fits as in our policy, so therefore I would accept this as information, as it doesn't fit in our policy, I believe.
Councillor Blockland?
Your Worship, having a motion and accepting it just for information is fine and dandy, but I'm assuming these people want an answer.
Yeah, I agree.
This tournament's on March 13th. I mean, that's only less than 3 weeks away.
Your Worship, I guess I'm.
You can amend your motion?
Well, I guess my thought is if we accept this information, means we're not doing nothing with it.
Could you, if I may, Your Worship, could you add a friend number mentor?
I'll entertain it.
Saying that simply because we don't want to set a precedent for the future along those lines, that they're aware of why.
Okay. Accept it as information, as we're not prepared to set a precedent in regards to a donation.
Have we done that already? I guess I look to administration for how would you like us to proceed forward?
If you'd like to withdraw your motion, I'll make a motion.
Okay, so moved.
What's the amount?
We don't know. It's hard to make a motion.
Roughly? So I move the council approve a donation of a portion of the ice rental cost for the 2015 under 12B Ringette Provincials hosted by the Strathmore Minor Ringette Association in the approximate amount of $4,500.
Your Worship, for a point of clarification, can we approve negative motions?
Of course you can.
Oh, okay.
And I missed the first part of the motion, Councillor Sobel. Would you mind please reading that back? Or
it's in your minutes.
Oh, okay.
I can reread it.
The council
approve a donation of a portion of the ice rental cost for the 2015 under 12B Ringette Provincials hosted by the Strathmore Minor Ringette Association in the amount of $4,500.
But you're saying approve a donation?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's not a negative. That's a
Yes,
positive motion.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
We don't have to vote for it.
But you still can, still vote on a negative. That was his question. Was,
Mhm.
can you vote on a negative?
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
This is not a negative motion.
No, that's why I was confused. I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
Mm.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve a donation of up to about $4,500. Is there any further discussion in regards to it? Seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? Defeated?
Your Worship,
Yes. Councillor Peterson.
respectfully, in conjunction with this, because I think that council has been not explicit enough, I would like to make a motion at this point. If,
Go ahead, make your motion and.
I would move then that council respectfully direct administration to review the current community donations policy and to bring forth a revised policy proposal to council that would more explicitly reflect eligibility for donations to nonprofit and no-profit groups and individuals, and as well to consider policy options that speak for opportunities for groups who offer goods or services in kind.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any questions?
Councilor
discussion?
Peterson, do you mean from $1 to whatever? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that, yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion in regards to the motion? Directing it back to administration. Okay, all in favor? And carried. And thank you. Thank you very much. And we did 8.6, so I can skip that one. And 8.7, which is the Strathmore Regional Arts Collective. And Councillor Peterson, if
I wish I was going to convention tomorrow.
Either hurry, I have to take a break, one or two.
Councillor Peterson, you have the floor. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's the Strathmore Regional Arts Collective request for town
Oh,
policy.
yes. Sorry about that completely. Yes, the Strathmore Regional Arts Cooperative would like to beg the town's indulgence to have them create a policy for installation of art, indoor and outdoor, on town-owned property. And we know that they exist in other communities, and we'd like to have the opportunity to have the same. We think that it would be a great addition to the community in terms of elevating the downtown revitalization project and adding interest, as well as providing opportunities for artists to display their work and perhaps even sell their work. And we really hope that'll be a conduit to an incubator type project in the future. So I would move that we respectfully request that town council look into that and bring information back to council in terms of a recommendation.
Administration, not town council.
Administration, sorry, yes, that's what it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sure of it. Councillor Graychuk.
I would like to suggest that maybe, does it have to be only town owned? Because in Canmore, they do that in there. It's on all properties. I would encourage town and non-owned property.
Councillor Peterson.
I think that's a great idea if you can do it. I just don't know how town dictates to others.
You don't dictate it, you encourage it, that's all I'm saying.
You're for art. I'm really glad, Councillor Graychuk. That's a wonderful idea.
Any further, Councillor Sobel?
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate this is going to administration for some policy. The way the wording of the recommendation is develop a policy to govern the installation and upkeep of art within the Strathmore community. And I'm really happy with the installation. I'm just a little concerned about what we mean by upkeep.
I can speak to that, Councillor Sobel. One of the things is that when in the policies that I looked at in other communities, depending on the type of installation that goes in, for instance, if it's an outdoor welded piece of art, it has usually and it isn't sprayed or doesn't have a coating on it, if it's not gilded, then it has a very limited lifetime. So at the time of installation, there's also a time for removal, and that's part of that upkeep. And that is within the planning of at the actual time of installation. And if there's damage, then it has to be removed.
So we're talking about a budget item as well.
It is a budget item, and I'm not really sure. I noticed Canmore had quite a significant budget for theirs. Okotoks virtually nothing, and seemed to be across the board. But I trust our administration will be able to bring something back to us that we'll be able to discuss anyway.
Under your tutelage, I'm sure.
No, but I'm sure Wanda will fill us in.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion on the floor? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. And thank you, Councillor Peterson, very much for that.
With my friendly amendment in there.
Yes, with your
Yes.
friendly amendments in
Yes,
there.
absolutely.
Yeah, 8.8. 8.8.
How come I thought it was 11?
Councillor Blokeland, if you would like to address the issue.
Thank you, Your Worship. Back in 2013, the floods in the High River and several other areas, the town of Strathmore did take an interest in the High River floods. I don't have the exact number in my head anymore, but I think we ended up raising around $12,000 with the town and its citizens and surrounding citizens outside of the town. We did Beef on a Bun right in High River, helping people get back on their feet, and the volunteer workers that were in there We bought mattresses. Any cash left over went to the Hard River Food Bank. This all happened back in 2013. Yesterday, I just want to read part of a press release yesterday. Regarding this, Prime Minister Stephen Harper has handpicked the former mayor of High River as one of 50 Canadians or organizations deserving of a Peace Tower flag. A nod to Emil Blockland's selfless efforts during the 2000 flood situation. The government awards these flags to people or groups who contributed significantly to the well-being of citizens as part of the national flag's 50th anniversary celebration. Our government has made it a tradition on National Flag of Canada Day to present a Peace Tower flag to Canadians who exemplify the values that we hold most dear. During the 2013 flood, Blockland was both praised and maligned for his handling of the disaster that forced roughly 13,000 High Riverites from their homes under a mandatory evacuation order. It would be 9 days before residents were allowed to return to their homes in a staged re-entry. Over that period, Blockland crisscrossed large swaths of southern Alberta, meeting with town and provincial authorities and displaced High Riverites in emergency shelters, and addressing reporters during daily briefings, which I listened to for about 3 weeks in a row, and they were quite interesting. While he was generally well received by residents, tempers occasionally boiled over as the evacuation dragged on, with some furious homeowners leveling unsubstantiated accusations at the former mayor. His wife suffered a stroke that summer as the town crawled back to recovery. That weighed heavily on Blockland as he considered his political future. He ultimately did not seek the mayor's chair in the fall election that year, opting to run as a councillor. Blockland could not be reached for comment yesterday, as I don't blame him. He's sitting in Phoenix for 5 months. He is so committed. He flies back and forth for council meetings. This is a deserving recognition for Mr. Blockland, who showed unwavering commitment and courage in the face of incredible adversity during the 2013 flood. The Peace Tower flag will be presented to Blockland at a ceremony next month, or I guess whenever he gets back from Phoenix. And I am so proud of this person. He is my brother, and what he went through, I don't wish that on anybody. This was just unreal what he had to do, and I'm very proud of him. I want to just thank council for giving me the opportunity to read this into the minutes of the meeting.
Okay. Any discussion?
I hope this puts them in the same category as Nancy.
I would just like to add something about the peace flag.
Please.
2 nights ago, Peter Mansbridge had a program that on it, and the wait time for an ordinary person to get a peace flag is 48 years if you put your name in today, and so it's a real honor, well deserved.
Absolutely. Deputy Mayor Walsh?
Your Worship, I'm wondering if we shouldn't send a congratulations letter to the former mayor.
Absolutely.
We don't need to do that in motion?
By direction?
Direction? Okay. Consider yourself directed. Alrighty, so there's nothing under administration, nothing under committee or departmental.
Your Worship, could I
Yes.
ask a quick question? Are
Please.
we still discussing Northwest Strathmore fire protection in this public meeting? Seems like.
Did we finish with that, or did
I
we?
thought we finished. I was asked to get more information from back.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's why I was waiting, and
Oh, I'm
that's
sorry.
why
Okay.
I was confused.
Mr. Graychuck had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Well, you know why I get confused now. I'm not the only one. Thank you. That
Thank you, Your
helps.
Worship.
Okay, questions between councilors and administration.
Council
And
rules,
I
Earth
forget.
Day,
Pardon me?
Earth Hour.
Earth Hour, I'm sorry. Yes, there we go again. Earth Hour. Let's do the Earth Hour first. You want to do the question first? Because it's on the agenda to do one first. Okay. Who had it? There was a couple of questions that were going to be asked.
Not me. I no longer have a question.
You no longer have a question? I have, okay, if you don't have anything? Yes, you do? Okay, Deputy Mayor Walsh.
Your Worship, I guess I have a question regarding the Bayside complex. Are residents supposed to get their garbage picked up in the street, or is there a community area they're supposed to get that garbage picked up at? Can you comment, Dr. Sanford?
Yes, I can. In Bayside, number 7 and 8, one of them, of course, is rental units, and the other one is citizens own them. Each one of them have a big bin, and the one on the rental, no, the one that we're involved in, let's put it that way. There's a big bin, and I think it's on wheels there, and it's hard to get at. So anyway, today I phoned to talk to Colin Hugstead, who's the one, it's his bin and so on, and I told him there was a problem. Some of the people can't reach high enough to lift the lid to get their garbage in because it's on wheels. So I asked him if he'd go up there tomorrow and take a look and see what he can do. If it has to be on wheels, that's one thing because they have to pull them out. But if they back in, it doesn't need to be on wheels. So he's going to check it out. But they don't put it on the street or anywhere else. It's got to go in the bin. Both places have a bin.
Your Worship, I guess I'm looking for some more information regarding the odor smell at the Pond 3 down by the fire hall. Are we putting our readings on the website?
Matter of fact, we had an opportunity to talk to EPCOR today, and they're the ones that are sort of handling this, and they have no indication of what's causing it. They know there's a smell, but they don't know what's happening. We know that part of it could be come from Storm Pond 1, 2, and going down into Kinsman there, but they don't know what we can do about it. As you know, we put in, 3, I think, big aerators, and we use those as late as we can. Yes, there's a smell. I drove down there and smelled. You can smell it. But EPCOR don't know how to solve it.
I'm looking for a bit of an update on our website, our sound equipment, and the renovations that we're doing to the front entrance here.
Okay, on the website, it came in a while ago and it wasn't up to our standard. So anyway, a lot of it's had to be redone, and it's almost completed, and probably within a week or two, it should be completed. And a lot of that has been done by staff, particularly Gen C and others. And
the sound?
The sound.
Our sound
We,
system?
we tried to get a hold of Dan today. He's on vacation. We couldn't get a hold of him for an update. Last thing we heard, it was going to be a few weeks. So I don't know if it's going to happen within a week or two or what. Anyway, we just couldn't get a hold of him on that.
Okay.
And on the renovations here, basically you're talking about the double doors.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and we've got to get that done. And
Your Worship, I think if I remember correctly, and maybe council can remind me, because they're going to get that tonight, were we not putting in some type of ramp or something for citizens to get in?
yes, and we're going to do that, but that's got to be done in the summer and all.
Okay.
For wheelchairs and all. Because out here it's pretty steep. Matter of fact, some of us have fallen out here in the winter. You slide down there, so.
And Your Worship, my final question would be, I'm getting some questions, and these are all coming from questions from citizens. I'm just wondering, in Strathaven, why are some streets done and yet others right in that area are not getting done?
Okay, when we go into an area, it's on priority in 1. First of all, do priority 1, then priority 2. And time we get priority 1 and 2 done, it takes a long time in town. And by then, this winter, most of the time we've had a Chinook or whatever. But we don't go into like Strathaven, do it all at once. We can't. We got to do priority 1 and 2 in the various areas.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councilor Grayson?
In follow-up of Councilor Wall's comment on the streets, then why is the one in Brentwood just south, and I don't remember the name of the street, I can look it up there, just south of Brent Drive, going straight through from Crystal Ridge Cove. It's always done first before anything else, and needs to be done right after the main street.
I'll check on that. It shouldn't be.
Any other questions? Thank you. Any other one is aerators, and I know that there's probably a power issue, but this smell has been getting bigger and bigger out along with a lot of comments from the citizens. Is there a wild possibility we can put aerators in, maybe one or two in, I know realizing there's a power issue in Pond 1, the south end of Pond 1.
Possibly, we can look into it.
Thank you.
Councilor Peterson.
We were going to look into seeing if the university could take it on as a capstone project too, that they could do some investigation into it and long-term and see. But I think that's a really good solution. And I can honestly say that although there is a smell, I mean, lived over there for a long time and walking around there a couple times a day, it isn't as nearly as bad this year as it was last. So, and the ice isn't heaving on the south end like it was last year, scarily.
Councilor Sobel.
Just going back to Councilor Walz's question, is it possible to get the readings from that area in regards to the product put on our webpage? As a
Sure.
report?
Okay. We'll get it from EPCOR and
Yeah.
then put it on.
I think it's a good idea to.
Because it is minor.
It's always been very minimal or zero, so I think it's good to
Okay.
report that.
Okay. I received a thank you, and it comes from John Godsman. He said, at the town council meeting earlier this month, I omitted to thank in public the members of the town of Strathmore staff who have gone out of their way to assist me in researching photos for volume 2 of my book, in particular, Jennifer Sawatsky. Additionally, the two ladies at the front desk, Deanne and Katrina, who take the names, etc., of customers wishing to order copies of my book. On my behalf, please commend them on the service they provide. And as Deanne and Katrina aren't here tonight, if you would extend that, please.
Yes, thank you.
And the other question that I have is, because we don't have a director of operations now, who is number 2 in regards to the emergency operations center if the manager for emergency operations center is away?
Okay, I'm the director and Linda's the deputy director of
I
it.
thought it was the other way.
So Jesse wasn't overly involved.
Oh, okay, then I had it wrong. Thank you. That's the end of my questions. Earth Hour Challenge, Councilor Deputy Mayor Walsh.
Your Worship, I'm just wondering, what will the town of Strathmore be with any of the facilities partaking in this event?
Yes, and we're going to put it on the website and all and encourage people to do it. And if you remember last year, Fortis got back to us and even though lots of us did it, it didn't even show up in the numbers.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but did I not read somewhere that there's money you get back if you're able to turn facilities off and so forth?
Yeah, there was a small amount for a few communities. But we'll have to prove that we can get the community to do it. Because last year, even on my street, there were some did it, but not the majority.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can we turn all the streetlights off?
That's pretty hard.
Do we have the back in camera? Did we finish our in-camera stuff? No? Okay, I will entertain a motion to go in camera.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I defer.
Okay.
I'll defer.
Councilor Sobel moves to go in camera in regards to freedom of information under section 21. And do we need a quick recess? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. All in favor? Carried. And